Hey, welcome to the Restoration Soul Care Podcast, where we have honest conversations about faith, neuroscience, and hope. I'm Michael Camber, a relationship and recovery coach.
And I'm Nick Buddha, a mental health and relationship coach. If you feel stuck in shame, addiction, or pain, you don't have to face it alone. Join us for some real stories, real tools, and a real path forward. Let's dive in.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the Quit Porn Restoration Soul Care Podcast. I want to start with something today that I did for a very long time, and I never really once questioned it. That every time that I decided that I was done with porn, my whole plan basically came down to this one thing, and that was I just got to want it less. If I could just care about it less than I do now, if I could kill the appetite, the desire, if I could just feel nothing, frankly, then when the urge showed up, I'd finally be free. So I prayed to not be tempted or triggered. It was like I was trying to flip some switch inside of me to be off. And somewhere along the way, I picked up this idea that this is what becoming a godly man was, becoming a guy who doesn't want anything. And I'll tell you what that effort got me. Nothing that actually helped, nothing that lasted. I learned that you can grit your teeth and get through a bad night, or a bad day, or a bad couple of moments. If you're really motivated, you might string together a week or two, but nobody can hold their breath for a lifetime. When you starve the desire, the wanting, it doesn't just die. It just goes quiet for a little bit. And then when it comes back, it's actually louder than it was before. So the thing that finally started to move for me was almost the opposite of everything that I had been doing. And to be honest with you, it took way too long for me to see this. And I didn't need to want porn less. I needed something else to want more, something big enough that porn couldn't compete with. And that's what I want to get into today. So let me stay on this idea that the goal is to want less, because I think a lot of us absorbed it without anyone ever sitting us down and teaching it. If you grew up in the church like I did, you probably caught this quiet message somewhere along the way that desire itself is a dangerous thing, that the wanting, that the desire is actually the sin. And so the correct move, the right move, the holy move, if you will, is to feel it as little as possible. Shut down desire. Become somebody with no appetite, because appetite is what gets you in trouble. And so growing up, especially in high school, I was known as a pretty laid-back person who didn't really get too bent out of shape about anything. I was just kind of I just went along with whatever. I didn't have any desire. I didn't have a strong opinion about things. And I believed that for a really long time, and it did something to me. It made me think that every time I felt a strong pull toward anything, that I was failing. So I would try to numb the whole system out, not just the porn, but all of it. The wanting, the ache, the desire, the hunger for closeness, the need for rest even. I treated my own desires like an enemy that I had to keep starved and locked in the basement. But that's not the man that God actually made. He didn't build you to want nothing. He built you to want. He built you to want deeply. The wanting is not a design flaw. It's part of the design. Here's a picture that I think changed how I see this a little bit. A guy who's addicted to porn is not a guy that wants too much. He's a starving man eating out of a dumpster. Think about that. The hunger's real. He's actually hungry. It's good. The hunger's good. If you don't feel hungry, you don't know to eat. His body is telling him something that's true about him, that he needs to be fed. The problem was never the hunger. The problem is what he's trying to feed his hunger with. C.S. Lewis said something close to this. He said, our problem isn't that our desire is too strong. It's that it's too weak. We're like a child who wants to keep making mud pies in a slum because he can't even imagine what a holiday at the sea would feel like. We settle. We are, in his words, far too easily pleased. So think about this. Porn is the mud pie. It's not proof that you wanted too much. It's proof that you got talked into settling for way too little. So I don't think you have a desire problem. I think you have a target problem. You've got a good, strong, God-given hunger, and it's been aimed at a counterfeit. And I'm not totally letting anybody off the hook here, but it's not entirely our fault, right? We grew up in a culture that is constantly trying to throw us off and sell us counterfeits, right? Which is why porn is so appealing at times. But let's talk about the counterfeit for a minute, because a counterfeit only works if it looks like the real thing, right? Nobody falls for a fake $20 bill that's printed on a napkin. It has to resemble something valuable. So the question I want you to sit with is this: what is porn actually impersonating? What's it actually counterfeiting? What is the real thing that it is pretending to be? And I found that it usually comes down to three things, three hungers, if you will. See if you recognize yourself in any of these. The first is the hunger to be wanted, to be desired, to be chosen, to be seen and known and still loved anyway, despite our flaws. That's one of the deepest things in people, right? It's how God created us. And porn offers you the feeling of being wanted with all of the risk removed, because there's always risk inherent in any relationship. There's no one on the other side who can reject you, no one who can find out who you really are and like turn away and say you're gross, I don't want you. It's the sensation of intimacy with the actual person taken out of it. And for a lot of guys who are terrified of being truly known, that's why it's really, really hard to put down. Not to go on a crazy tangent here, but the Surgeon General of the United States last year, I think 2 years ago, came out and said that loneliness is a national epidemic. And so if you think about that, most of us live lonely, isolated lives. In fact, the majority of the guys when I talked to the first time in our first couple of sessions, I'm trying to get a good grasp or a good idea of what their relational reality looks like in terms of family, friends, community, church, etc. And for most guys, it's either A, their wife is their closest relationship, which is good, no problem with that, but that's typically where it ends. Most guys don't have good, safe, healthy, quality adult male friendships that they can confide in. So that's not to say that your marriage is bad. It's not. But you weren't built for one relationship for the rest of your life, right? In Christ, God calls us to the church, which is a community of believers. It's more than one person. And so we do live isolated lives. So that's common. The second hunger is the hunger for comfort, for relief, for somewhere to exhale when life is pressing in on you. Everybody needs a place to be soothed. And porn, we learn, our brains learn, our nervous systems learn, is the fastest, cheapest thing that does the job. And it works quick. It's in the moment. You carry it in your pocket. That's not a small thing. That's the whole piece that we think that we're after. Our body is carrying more than it can hold. And here's this reliable little off-ramp that drops the pressure in about 90 seconds, but it counterfeits the rest, which is the problematic part of this. The third hunger is to feel alive, to feel something when we've gone numb. Most men reach for porn when they're bored out of their minds and when they're desperate to feel any spark of anything. It hijacks that hunger with a jolt of intensity and novelty. And the cruel part is that you feel more dead an hour later than you did before you started. So those things are sort of the definition of what a counterfeit actually is. But here's the pattern I want you to notice that runs under all three of these things. Every one of those hungers is real, and every one of those is good. Every one of them was put in you on purpose. Porn did not create a single one of them. All it does is walk up and convince us that it actually is the answer, that it is going to keep your appetite fully alive, but it also starves you at the same time. That's the trap. It's a thing that promises to feed you and leaves you hungrier. When I was a kid, I learned this without anybody, teaching me directly, that porn, this stuff was fine as long as I never talked about it. As long as I keep it secret, I keep it safe, channeling my inner Gandalf here. I had an image to hold up. Everybody knew I went to church every Sunday, so I clammed up. I changed the subject even when it came up. I just straight up lied when I had to. And if you asked me back then what my problem was, I probably would have said lust. I would have said that I wanted too much, that I had too strong of a sex drive, or whatever other things we tell ourselves. But that's not what was actually going on underneath. What I was really starving for was to be known, to have one place, one person where I could tell the truth about myself and not get left, rejected, or judged for it. And man, I was desperate for that. And I was also scared to death of it. So instead of the real thing, I took the counterfeit, because the counterfeit let me feel a flicker of connection without ever risking being seen. And I don't think I really even told anybody about it until I was several years into college. And when I finally did, it was clumsy and it was terrifying. And it was the first thing in a long time that actually fed the hunger I'd been trying to satisfy with the screen. And that's when it started to click for me. I was never going to win this by wanting less. I was never going to win this by trying to do it alone, because how had that gone? I had to get to the real thing that I had been counterfeiting the whole time. I want to pivot for just a second. I want to talk about why the willpower approach keeps collapsing, because I don't think most guys are lazy, and I don't think they don't care. I think that they're using a tool that was never going to work. Try this right now for the next 10 seconds. Don't think about your phone. Don't picture it. Don't think about where it is. You thought about your phone, didn't you? Everybody does. That's how our brains work. When your whole strategy is to not want something or not think about it, you end up circling it constantly. You end up thinking about it. The empty space that you cleared out doesn't just stay empty. It pulls your attention straight back to the thing that you're trying to avoid, right? A pastor named Thomas Chalmers, there's a sermon that he preached it was a long time ago. I think it was like 200 years, 100 years, something like that. It was a long time ago. He had a phrase for it. He called it the expulsive power of a new affection. His point was this: you don't get rid of an old love by white-knuckling it out of your heart. You get rid of it by falling for something better. A bigger love is what finally pushes the smaller one out, not more willpower, a stronger desire, a stronger want, the desire for something bigger. And you see this exact thing, John chapter 4 with the woman at the well. It's one of my favorite stories. Jesus meets this woman whose whole life has been one thirsty trip to the well after another. And the beautiful thing that he does is he doesn't shame her thirst, right? He doesn't say, your thirst is terrible, you shouldn't want to be out here in the middle of the day. He doesn't even tell her to stop being thirsty. He offers her something better. He offers her living water. He says, if you drink what I'm offering, you won't have to keep coming back to this well that never actually fills you up. He does not attack the desire. He redirects it to a source that actually satisfies it, that finally satiates it. Augustine, I think, put words to this better than a lot of people. When he prayed, you have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you. The restlessness is not your enemy. The restlessness you feel is a compass. It's telling you something about yourself. It's pointing you somewhere. Porn just keeps grabbing the compass and spinning it in the wrong direction. So hear me out on this. You're not too much. You're not somebody who's broken just because you desire bad things or you desire poorly. You're somebody who's been aiming at a good and holy hunger, but you aim it at a cheap target. And that can change. Again, not by aiming at nothing, by aiming at something real. And this, I try to make this as practical as possible. And even when in our coaching sessions with people, we have to aim at something. It's not enough to just turn away from the thing, which is what most of us do. But because our desire is so stunted and defeated, when we turn away from the thing we don't want to do, we don't really aim at anything else. So guess what slips back in? Porn. So again, let's get really practical. I don't want to leave you with, a nice idea or something not practical. Remember those three hungers: being wanted, comfort, feeling alive. The goal is to stop fighting the porn head on and start feeding the real hunger underneath. So let's go through each of these one by one. The hunger to be wanted. The counterfeit is being wanted by a screen that can never actually know you. The real thing is letting one person into your story, into your life, who can genuinely see you and know you. This week, if you can have one honest conversation with somebody who can help just carry the weight of your story. That's it. Just be known. Show up and tell the truth about yourself. It's the thing that porn can never, ever, ever, ever give you. And it's the thing that you're actually starving for. I get it. It's scary. It's terrifying. But it's also the medicine that you need. So take courage and do that. The hunger for comfort. The counterfeit is the fastest regulator. The real thing is giving your body real rest before you're desperate enough to grab the fake kind. Sleep, actual quiet. Take a walk and leave your phone at home. Prayer that is you actually being honest with God about where you're at, instead of just saying really nice things to God and saying, oh yeah, I did my prayer today. If your nervous system has a true place to exhale, it can stop like reaching and clawing for the counterfeit. Man, even in the middle of the night, like that's a safe place to go with that. The hunger to feel alive. The counterfeit is a hit of intensity and dopamine that can leave you more numb. So the real thing is putting something genuinely alive back on your calendar. Your body, the outdoors, a table full of people that you actually like, people that you actually want to spend time with, something at work that means something. Going to church and worshiping, that's not just for the sake of showing up and saying that you went to church. You have to feed the hunger to feel alive with things that actually give life instead of draining it out of you. Porn takes from you. It never fills you up. It never gives life. And here's how I think that you can make a shift, even how you think about this. Stop asking, how do I stop wanting porn? And start asking, what am I actually hunger for? What's the one real thing I can feed it with this week? Because this is what I tell people all of the time. And out of the gate, most people don't quite get this, but I promise it's true. Freedom will show up as a byproduct of a fuller life that you can create and orchestrate, one that doesn't need porn. It's not something you get by going to war against this thing every day. You chase the real hunger to the real source, and over time, the counterfeit just doesn't satisfy anymore because it can't compete with the real thing because it was only ever imitating it. So what I tell guys is this exact thing, is that you have to out-desire what porn can provide. Porn just doesn't do it. We believe it does, but we're missing out on so much more that God has for us in life. So if you do nothing else with this episode, do this one thing. Next time the urge shows up, before you touch anything, before you grab your phone, ask yourself one question. What am I actually hungry for? What am I actually hungry for right now? And then name it. Say it out loud if you have to. Am I lonely? Am I exhausted? Am I bored out of my mind? Am I anxious? Am I looking for something to do? Am I numb and trying to feel something? Name the real hunger and then go feed that thing. Text a friend. Actually go to bed when you said you were going to go to bed. Get up and walk outside. Pray honestly to the Lord. The one where you actually say what's going on. You're not going to get it perfect every time. You're not even going to get it perfect out of the gate. That's okay. You'll forget. You'll ask the question, reach for your phone, the counterfeit anyway some nights. That's fine. Do it once and then do it again next time. You're teaching a good hunger to walk to a real table instead of a dumpster. That's not white-knuckling. That's just pointing yourself in a better direction one time and then another. And that consistency over time is what adds up to the long-term big picture change that we're after. A lot of times, I've said this in other episodes, so go back and listen to those if you want. The hard part is that, when we approach quitting porn, especially in Christian or religious context, we call it sin, and it is sin, to be clear. But we have a relationship already with things that we call sin. We stop cold turkey. We don't go back. We repent, confess, and then leave it. And the hard part with this is that many of you have tried that and you haven't left it and you've kept going back. And so you start to believe that something's wrong with you, that if I fail again, then I just lose and I have to just tolerate this crap for the rest of my life. And that's not true. We have to change our relationship or the way that we think about quitting porn. It's not like the other stuff. Paul even makes that distinction in Scripture. Sexual sin is a sin against your body, and it is different than the other stuff. It's not the same thing as just, whatever the sin, breaking the speed limit or, whatever other things you might have going on. It's different, and it's different. So we have to approach it differently. So here's what I want to leave you with today. Stop trying to want less. You need to learn how to want the right things all the way with your whole heart. That's not a smaller, insignificant life. That's a much bigger one than porn could ever offer you, than it is offering you. So here's your challenge for the next 24 hours. Before this time tomorrow, name one real hunger that porn has been counterfeiting in your life. Just one. And then take one real step to feed it. Have a conversation with a friend. Take some real rest. Do one thing that makes you feel alive. Go hiking. Go for a walk. Not 10, one. Because a fuller, more vibrant life that we're after, you can't just fix it all in a weekend or in one day or in an hour. It gets built one step at a time in the same direction with consistently. Small, consistent, seemingly insignificant decisions made day in and day out add up to what we're after in the big picture. It doesn't happen overnight. That's all I got for you for today. I hope this was helpful. If you thought it was helpful, please take a moment, send it to somebody who needs it. If you want my help or if you want to talk, go to rscky.com/get started. We can have a quick 20, 30-minute chat. we can do a phone call or video call, whatever you want, just to hear where you're at and help map out a plan to get you to where you want to go. Everybody's story is a little bit different, but the consistency of all of the things I just talked about affect everybody in some way. So freedom from porn is the byproduct of living a fuller life, the life that Christ has for you, the life that God has for you in Christ. Catch you next time. Hey, thanks for joining us today. If you found this helpful, do us a huge favor and subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Or, better yet, send this to someone who needs encouragement.
For more tools, resources, and information about our coaching, check out rscky.com. Keep showing up.
Yeah, we'll catch you next time.